like fun. My question is, who would be responsible if someone gets hurt, since everyone is participating? Angela, definitely kind of, she's kind of being a Johnny Raincloud too, but a really great question from her. What do you think, Jim?
Well, fireworks, look, I love them.
Sure,
the kids love them.
Yeah.
What's more fun than blowing things up?
I mean,
it's American as a hot dog, right?
Yeah, right.
But they are dangerous, okay?
Right.
And, there are a lot of cities where you're not supposed to fire them, shoot them off. That's sort of overlooked a lot of times during the holidays, but you need to be careful. But the short answer is it depends a lot, okay? As a practical matter, let's go through a situation. Someone fires a firework into a crowd, injures someone.
Right.
The person who did that is going to be primarily responsible.
Okay.
But as a realistic matter, everybody who participated in funding or organizing that event may very well get what we say is an invitation to the party. They may be sued as well,
right,
if they're facilitating some type of illegal activity and they're not doing it in a reasonable manner. Most of what we do at law, believe it or not, it comes down to a lot of common sense.
Sure.
It's, did someone act unreasonably and cause someone else to be injured? So if you're buying a lot of fireworks, there's a lot of alcohol going on, no one's wearing safety glasses, nobody has earplugs in,
right,
people are recklessly firing fireworks, then you're probably going to be held responsible. If you're doing it the right way and somebody's inadvertently injured, maybe not.
Maybe not. Jim, let me ask you this, because she mentioned that they were in a neighborhood and everybody gets it. If they had like a homeowners association, should they consider maybe some sort of insurance policy or some sort of liability policy, or am I stretching out too far here?
Maybe, but probably not. As a practical matter, I'm not sure that an insurance company would underwrite that or cover that.
That's true.
Or want to. And they may be covered by their homeowner's policy anyway. But the main thing is, I think, in these kinds of things, is use common sense, be careful, have an adult in charge, don't let kids do it.
Right.
Make sure you're wearing safety glasses and earplugs.
Reasonable.
And being careful and not consuming a lot of alcohol when you're finding
reasonable safety measures.
That's right.
Gotcha.
That's right.
All right, Angela, really do appreciate it. And we don't think you're a Karen at all with that question. That was a fine question for sure. If you ever want to send us a question, it's so easy to do. rmlawcall.com. Just send it to the boys' email. You can find it all over the website. We find the best ones for the best shows, and we get them on the air as quick as we can. But we do appreciate everybody emailing in, and including Angela tonight. Jim, we talked about one just a minute ago, swimming pools. It is so easy, unfortunately, to have a serious accident in a swimming pool. Unfortunately, we'll hear something before the end of the summer, God forbid. What are your thoughts? You've had swimming pools in the past. Matthew's had swimming pools in the past. What are your thoughts on that? Is there any way you can protect yourself liability-wise, safety-wise? What are your thoughts?
Well, let's look at safety first. Let's look at it in mercenary terms of, protecting yourself. But really, what you see mostly with swimming pool incidents are children who are left unattended or don't swim well. So make sure your children can swim if they're going to be around a pool. Make sure, even if they're young and they're still can swim, make sure they're wearing some kind of flotation protection device.
That's right.
And then always keep an eye on them. Almost all of these things happen usually to children, okay?
Yes.
Adults usually can handle themselves in a pool. It's rare that I've seen a case where an adult drowns or is seriously injured in a pool. But it does happen. Sure. It does happen. But those are the main things. And then, make sure if you have a pool, there are requirements that you have it fenced in. And the main thing are the little ones. Make sure you're watching those kids.
Jim, a term that you and Matthew have used before is something like some sort of an attraction. Like the pool is there's
attractive nuisance.
An attractive nuisance. Explain that a little bit.
Well, you have there's a theory under the law that you have an extra obligation to be extra safe if you have something that attracts children, people that are underage, and makes them want to come participate. So things like a swimming pool, I can't think of other examples.
Maybe a playground? Great playground, yeah.
You've got to be sort of extraordinarily careful in those situations because you're dealing with children, and children are going to be kids. They're going to want to get in the pool. They're going to play in the playground, and so you got to really make sure those areas are safe. Again, just sort of common sense.
Gotcha. All right, our topic tonight, summertime injuries. Phone lines are getting going here. When we come back after the break, one of the big things you got to talk about with summertime is hurricanes. We're going to talk to Jim Reeves a little bit about that. He knows all about what you need to do to protect yourself for insurance and liability purposes for a hurricane, and more of your calls and questions when we come back from Law Call.
Welcome back to WLOX Law Call. broadcasting from the Gulf Coast to the Pine Belt with lawyers from the Biloxi personal injury law firm of Reeves Mestayer, the attorneys for South Mississippi, including Jim Reeves. Known as a tough fighter, Jim has more than 100 cases with a recovery of $1 million or more and is recognized as a top 100 trial lawyer by the National Trial Lawyers Association. Plus Matthew Mestayer. Matthew served as an award-winning judge for nearly 20 years, has recovered millions for his clients, and is deeply involved in community issues on the entire coast. And hosted by broadcaster Ken Flanagan. The show has included over 200 guest attorneys from across Mississippi. This is WLOX Law Call.
And welcome back to Law Call on this Saturday evening. Hot Saturday night here in South Mississippi. So glad to have you along. Now it's time for our legal brief. Now, here's the question. If you're injured by another person, the insurance company very well might send you some sort of a release form that's tied to a check. What should you know before you sign that document? Personal injury attorney Matthew Mestayer has more tonight in tonight's legal brief.
If you've been injured and the other party's insurance company recognizes that their policyholder was at fault, they may contact you directly to settle your claim. But if you accept the money, there are some serious strings attached. The release form, which will state that in exchange for a payment, you release all claims against the wrongdoer. So let's say you have a sore neck after a wreck, but a month later, you sign the release. You begin to experience more severe pain. Your doctor determines that you have a herniated disc in your spine, which requires a very costly surgery. So, just contact the insurance company for more money, right? Wrong. Cash that check closes the door on your claim permanently. In other words, you're out of luck. Contact an experienced trial attorney before you sign any release. You need to know exactly what you're agreeing to. I'm personal injury attorney Matthew Mestayer. Back to you.
Just call them back. That's wrong.
That's wrong.
Matt laying it out there. Matt, thank you. Good information as always in our legal brief. Jim, we've talked about it. Them sending you a document to sign is actually, that's kind of old school now, isn't it? I mean, they email you, text you.
Email, text, any way they can get it to you quickly, tempt you to sign it before you talk to an attorney. They'll do it.
I had one, Jim, and you'll remember me because I called you on this one. They sent me an email, and they literally said in the email, hey, we'll have it deposited into your checking account within 24 hours. And I mean, it was very tempting.
And they resolve a lot of claims that way, and they underpay a lot of people that way.
Just because you're maybe desperate
quickly,
and it's right.
And you don't think about it, and hey, it's
Boom,
easy.
there
You feel okay, and maybe it's then, like Matt said,
wrong.
3 months later, you're hurting bad, and
right.
Your case is over.
Just call Jim. That's what I did. I saw the email and I called him. He said, don't do anything. Don't touch that email.
There you go.
Don't click anything. I said, all right, I want Jim.
You wanted to, didn't you?
I wanted to. I did, but Jim told me not to. It all worked out for the end, of course, better. Our topic tonight is summertime injuries. Phone lines are open, 896-0713 or 1-800-349-0713. I said that one slower. Somebody texted me a minute ago and said I was talking too fast. They were right. Jim, when you're talking about summertime, you cannot avoid the topic of hurricanes. I mean, they are the big summertime injury. They are the big hit.
Especially around here, right?
Especially around the people at Moss Point this week might say, yeah, you know what, there's some other summertime stuff as well. God bless everybody in Moss Point.
That's right.
Tonight for sure. Hope the recovery goes as quickly as possible. Jim, not to brag on you too much, but you had a major hurricane settlement to begin this year. Yep. All the way back to Katrina. Big settlement for you. We're not going to say any names or anything, but
well, it was a verdict in Harrison County.
Big verdict.
A jury verdict, $10.5 million. I'm very proud of that verdict because I think it's going to make insurance companies think twice the next storm that comes before they mistreat a policyholder. And there's some egregious conduct in that case, and there is in a lot of cases because people are vulnerable after hurricanes.
Right.
You often don't have a job. If the place you work at has been destroyed, you don't have a home, you still have a mortgage, okay?
Right.
And so it's a lot of pressure, and a lot of pressure for people to want to get things resolved quickly and move on with their life. And you're at a real disadvantage when you're dealing with an insurance company in that situation. And you really, if you have a serious claim, you really need legal representation. It's critical.
Just something you just can't do on your own.
You just can't. If you've got a serious loss, you just cannot do it. You will come up on the short end of that stick Every time.
Because the insurance companies, and not your local agents, but the big giant companies, they know what they're doing in court, don't they?
Well, sure, they know what they're doing in court, and they know the disparity in the power there. Okay, so they're sitting in an office in Hartford, Connecticut somewhere, and you're down here with no electricity.
We're getting close to naming a name here, Jim. We're getting real close.
No house, no house, no job, and a mortgage, and they know that, and so if they can drag it out a little bit, most people just say, look, I got to take it and move on with it. Right.
Jim, since we're here at the beginning of hurricane season, what do you tell your clients? What do you tell your friends and your neighbors? What can you do legally to get ready for a hurricane?
Well, job number one, make sure you have adequate insurance, okay?
Okay.
Once the storm gets in the Gulf, they're not going to write you more insurance, okay? So you need to look at your policy, make sure you're adequately insured.
Great.
Property values have gone up and down. Make sure you've got enough, okay?
Right.
Second, document what you have, okay? Easy today with iPhones, go through your house, document, photograph, or even video, room to room, what you have. It becomes incredibly hard. It was a real point of contention in the case that we tried over in Pascagoula for people to come in after a storm, and an insurance company says, okay, list the contents and tell us the value, where you bought the furniture, how much it was worth, and you have no idea because it's not there anymore.
Right.
And so it's almost impossible to do. So document that beforehand. Those are the two critical things I think are the most critical things you need to do going into a storm season.
Jim, is it just as simple as I take my phone, put the video on, and just kind of walk around the living room and like, hey, there's my TV, it's
that's helpful.
40 inches.
That's helpful. And if you got that video or the photographs, then you can recreate what you have pretty effectively, right?
Okay, right.
But trying to go back and remember what I had in this room or that room and then prove it,
right,
very difficult.
Very difficult.
Because it's gone,
right? It's gone, and then you're trying to come from memory, and then you're a victim, and all that sort of stuff like that. Jim, y'all did a lot of that kind of work after Katrina, didn't you?
Tons of it. It was a big legal fight down here on the coast. One of the 2 or 3 biggest that we've had in my career for the entire legal community, the entire community. People who had losses know about this. The wind versus water fights that took place are epic. So.
And I just want to say, this is not your local insurance representative. Most of the ones I know, the ones that represent me, great people, good people. You see them at the ball field, see them at the watermelon games. They're everywhere.
And they typically want you to get paid. Okay?
That's right.
They understand you've paid a premium. They understand you're hurting in a situation after a hurricane. They probably are too, okay?
Right.
They want you to get paid. It's a different situation. You're dealing with, in a hurricane situation, professional adjusters and lawyers who do it year in and year out. They deal with disasters. They come in after the disasters and try to settle claims and get them resolved. And look, it's their job to settle them as efficiently and for as little money as possible.
Right.
That's how they make money.
That's just the business.
Collect premiums.
Yes.
Pay as little as possible. Keep the difference. You've got to recognize that.
Right.
You've got to recognize that and deal with it accordingly.
Gotcha.
That's what you have
well,
to do.
Jim, you just said it. I mean, that's just the business of it, and just recognize what you're in on that one. Okay, when we come back after the break, we got another email question for Jim to tackle. This one is a really good one. I think you're going to like this one, Jim. This one's literally hot off the grill. You'll see what I'm saying in just a second. Plus, I've got contact information for both Matthew and Jim when we come back here on LawCall. And welcome back to LawCall. Let that music just soak in. You got to wait a whole nother week before you hear it again. Just enjoy it you can right now. Jim Reeves, Matthew Mestayer, Reeves and Mestayer, 228-374-5151. They have the toll-free number as well. And as I was mentioning a little bit before, rmlawcall.com, where you can send us email questions. You can watch this show in a couple of days, plus all the other shows, the YouTube channel, everything's on there. For Jim. Jim, I got a hot question for you.
Okay.
This one I shouldn't make too light of it because it's pretty serious right here. And it comes in from Callie. Callie was talking about her husband. Listen to this. My husband was badly burned over the weekend using our gas grill. We swapped out our empty tank for a new full one at the gas station like everybody does, and he is sure something was wrong with the tank. What should we do? Boom.
No, look, that's I've handled a lot of burn cases over the years. Honestly, they're the worst in terms of injuries and the pain and what people go through.
That's true.
Treated for these, they're terrible. So we hope he ends up okay. I hope he's getting good medical care, and I hope he's, it says badly burned. That can mean a lot of things.
Yeah, sure.
Hopefully not too bad. Okay, so let's dissect this a little bit. So
you got the gas.
He got the tank of gas. First thing to do is make sure that the tank and the equipment involved is not destroyed, moved. Make sure it is preserved.
Okay.
Do not let anybody take that. Do not let it get away from you. Make sure if it's taken by fire or arson investigators, they know how to document it and keep it.
Okay.
But do not let that slip away. Okay. Second thing, you need to talk to an attorney Monday.
Right.
Okay. Because an attorney can take control of this, send out what's called a preservation letter. It's going to be critical that this evidence be preserved, because what will have to happen is there have to be a fire and origins expert retained to go out, determine what started the fire and how it was caused.
Right.
Okay. And then the second thing, you may have to also have an expert talk about a design or manufacturing defect if that's what caused the fire. But they've got to have that equipment and be able to inspect it. Without it, you don't have a potential case. So that's the most critical thing to do. Obviously, second to after getting proper medical care.
Right.
But in terms of your legal case, those are the critical things.
And Jim, this is just, it'd be far too complicated for you to try to do something like this.
No, you couldn't possibly try to handle this in an effective way without an attorney. No, not if it's a serious injury, a fire, and because I've handled a lot of these cases.
Yes.
And they're tough, and there'll be allegations that somebody did something wrong. For instance, didn't light the grill properly, didn't connect it properly. You've got to deal with all those issues. But the critical thing, and what I see most often happen in these kinds of cases, people that have a potential case, they're preoccupied, and understandably so, with their loved one who's injured and making sure they're okay, but this equipment gets away from them, and they come to my office 3 or 4 months later and say, well, do I have a case?
Right,
and I say, well, honestly, I can't know because the evidence is gone.
Right.
Okay.
Jim, you mentioned something, and I'm thinking back to another case, another big case you had earlier this year. You have the tank, of course, but then the hose. And I know that you tried a case with the hose and was critical piece of evidence.
Right.
And that case that you
That's right.
finished successfully.
That's right.
Is that something else they need to grab too?
Any of the equipment.
All of it.
So let me just make sure, the grill, to the lighter, to all the valves, to if the hose is left, anything that's left of the hose, anything. I don't mean just the tank. Anything around or involved with that fire needs to be preserved.
And it's so easy too. We all have propane grills, and you go up to the store, you grab it, and you're in and out, and you're getting back before the wife gets upset with you because the grill's not hot yet, and the mom and dad's coming over, and the chicken's got to be hot. Yeah, and then you have something like this grabs you pretty quick.
It happens more often than you think.
Thank you. Great email question tonight. Really do appreciate all of our email questions tonight. Really, really good for the summertime injury shows. As I mentioned earlier, go to rmlawcall.com and send the boys an email question. We'll get it on the air as soon as we can for the right show, for sure. Jim, as we wrap up here, summertime injuries, what parting wisdom, what closing argument would you like to make tonight to our good viewers?
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Okay.
If you're going on the road, make sure you have good tires. Go get them checked out by a mechanic. As the same thing with your car. Make sure you have great wiper blades. You're going to go through maybe some bad weather. Make sure your insurance is in place on your automobile. Make sure you have under and uninsured insurance coverage.
Oh, yes.
We talk about that a lot.
Yes.
So take care of those things and then be careful, okay? But those are the things you can do ahead of time so that if something bad happens, you're prepared to handle it as best you can.
And Jim, should we have our attorney's phone number in our phone before you go out of town? Is that a good?
I think that is a good idea. I actually do. I think
plug it in there.
Plug it in, save it. You can save our number, save someone else's. But if you're in a serious, and it even gets more complicated if you're in another state.
Oh yeah, right.
So you need a friendly voice to talk to if you're involved in something. So keep an attorney on speed dial.
And Jim, y'all's first phone call is always free. I mean, y'all call in, talk to Jim and Matt. They'll always talk to you for free.
Well, and honestly, everything we do is for free unless we win. And
right. That's true.
When it's over, and if we win, then we take a fee. If not, nobody pays us anything.
That's the way it goes on that side. On that side.
That's right.
Jim, let's talk about social media real quick. We were talking about phones, and I just couldn't help but think about it. Social media just so huge today. If you were involved in an accident and somebody else did hurt you, and it's not your fault, those other folks are going to be watching your social media accounts this summer, aren't they?
Sure. So yeah, if you've got a pending case, and we give this advice, it's something I didn't have to give when I started my career because it didn't exist.
Right.
It's one of the things that sort of blows up people's cases is, you know, people put sometimes way too much information out in the public domain.
Right.
It really doesn't ever go away. You may think it does, but they can find it and it comes back some way, somehow. So if you've got a case pending or potential case, stay off social media. Don't talk about your case with anybody but your attorney and maybe your immediate family. So be careful about that.
And maybe not post all the photos from the vacation?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, all right, summertime injuries. Thank you so much for the email questions and everybody who called in. I'm sorry we couldn't get a few more people on air tonight, but we really appreciate everybody watching. Matthew Mestayer will be back with us next week to talk about personal injury. But until then, my friends, good night.